Apple stores now, Samsung stores, Huawei. If you look at toy stores, all of them are encouraging the visitors to touch their product. Such is the power of touch. But we don't stop there. Joanne Peck made another study of the same year, wanting to know how strong is that effect. And according to her, touching a product increases confidence and affective response, the positive response to a certain product. The higher the positive response, the higher the positive attitude there is towards an ad, towards a product, towards something being touched, being held. So touch leads to an increase in persuasion. Her final study happened 3 years later because it's a little bit more extensive. It's with this other lady named Shu, and it was back in 2009. See, it's just a little over 10 years ago. Very, very recent study. And as far as her study says, for humans, touch can connect you to an object in a very personal way. But you know, the most important thing about this study is that this point, the experience of touching an object can influence persuasion, even if the touch element provides no information regarding the product. We don't need to have texture on text, to have varnish or foil, embossed varnish, embossed foil on text for the consumer to appreciate it. It is a, how should I say, a pleasurable, memorable, haptic, tactile experience is enough to increase the persuasion. And when there is an increased persuasion, there is an increased perceived ownership. The higher the perceived ownership, the more likely the consumer will buy. And ladies and gentlemen, those are the three studies. Case in point, if you look at this part, it looks like the dew from a very cold drink. Who doesn't like a very cold drink? You can see it, and when you touch it, you can actually feel it more. So, who's thirsty? So as you can see, sensory print creates subliminal thoughts about a product or brand. Positive subliminal thoughts. And sensory print creates interest in the appearance and feel of the print, which transfers to the product or brand. And such is the power of touch. So can you imagine the process? I see something, I reach for it, and then I touch it. It's pleasurable. Most likely, I will end up either buying it or keeping it in my mind to buy in the near future. And that is my explanation for textures. Hanzala?
Thank you, Mike. So, අපි බැලුවා ස්පර්ශ කිරීමේ බලය මොකද්ද? power of touch කියලා කියන එක. එතකොට ෆ්‍රාන්ස් වල පරිශීලනයක් කරලා තිබ්බා. ඒ පරිශීලනයේ ෆ්‍රාන්ස් වල ඔබතුමාලා දැකලා ඇති වීඩියෝ පටියක් අවසාන වරට අපේ මුද්‍රණයට මේ තරම් හැඟීමක් ඇති කලේ කවද කියලා ප්‍රශ්නාර්ථයක් එනවා. එතකොට හැඟීම් ඇති කරන විදිහට printing කරලා තිබ්බා. මේ tactile printing කිව්වේ varnish වලින් අපිට ස්පර්ශ කරලා බලන්න පුළුවන් හැටියට print කරලා තිබ්බා. එතකොට ඔයාලා දැක්ක වීඩියෝ එකේ customers ලාගේ හැඟීම් කොහොමද කියලා. හැඟීමක් ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට print කරලා තිබ්බා. එතකොට ඒකට අමතරව පරිශීලනයක් කළ තිබ්බා මිස් ජොයන් පෙක් කියලා රිසර්චර් කෙනෙක්, පබ්ලිෂර් කෙනෙක්, author කෙනෙක්. එතකොට එයා මේ පරිශීලනයේට මූලිකත්වය ආවේ ඉලිනොයිස් ඒරියා එකකින් ක්‍රිස්මස් වලට කිව්වා shopping යනකොට යම් කිසි දෙයක් ස්පර්ශ කරන්න බැහැයි කියලා. එතකොට මෙයා බැලුවා ඇයි මේ මෙහෙම කියන්නේ කියලා. එතකොට ඉල්නොස් ගවර්න්මන්ට්ෙන් කිව්වා සැලසුම් නොකර මේ කිව්වා අන්ප්ලෑන් විදියට අපි shopping ගියාම මේක ස්පර්ශ කරනකොට සැලසුම් නොකරම මිලදී ගන්නවා කියලා. අන්ප්ලෑන් purchases වෙනවා කියලා. එතකොට මේක මේ සම්බන්ධව මේ මෙතුමිය රිසර්ච් එකක් කරා මේ ස්පර්ශ කරනකොට එතකොට මේ ස්පර්ශ කරත් මේක මට ඕනේ කියන හැඟීමක් එනවායි කියලා. එතකොට ඒ විදිහට තමයි අද බැලුවා නම් Apple, Samsung ඒ වගේ ගොඩාක් stores අද වෙනකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ showrooms වල ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ භාණ්ඩ ස්පර්ශ කරන්න ඉඩ දීලා දෙනවා. එතකොට තමයි අපි ගිහිල්ලා මේක අල්ලලා හිතන්නේ අපිට මේක ඕනේ කියලා කියන එක. ඒක බලපාන අපේ පැකේජින් printing වලට. එතකොට අත්‍යවශ්‍ය මේකේ කරන්න ඇවිල්ලා විශ්වාසය වැඩි කරනවා. අපේ භාණ්ඩයක විශ්වාසය එතකොට වැඩි කරනවා. එතකොට මේ ස්පර්ශයේ මූලධර්මය මොනවාද? මොකද්ද මෙතන එලිමන්ට් එක? එතකොට මේ තව රිසර්ච් එකක් කරලා තිබ්බා මේ ස්පර්ශ කිරීමේ මේ එලිමන්ට් එකේ සමහර වෙලාවට විස්තරයක් අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. අපි ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් එකක් දාන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. අපේ prints වලට අපේ පැකේජින් වලට මේ ස්පර්ශ කරලම කස්ටමර්ස්ලා අඳුනා ගන්නවා මොකද්ද මේ අපි මේකෙන් මේ කියන්නේ යන්නේ කියලා කියන එක. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, thank you very much. So, you've seen the strength, the power of sight and touch. So, allow me to show you some of the applications where we can use it, and these are actual applications that has been made using our type of digital embellishment. So here are two packaging done by a company in Israel called Heret, and their customer is Sabon. Sabon is a high-end luxury soap brand, and this is what they're doing for them. So luxury packaging. When it comes to cosmetics and healthcare, we're not. If you look here, this is actually a spot UV packaging for Semco, another popular cosmetic brand, glutathione soap. And then for the rest would be also for cosmetics and beauty products. Even for food and drinks. If you look closely here, the product is macaron. We know that, but if you look at it, the spot UV is not just on the macaron. It's actually more on the background, and it says "lovely." So that has a positive impact on the consumer. It all adds to the increased persuasion by the consumer who will be looking at the packaging and touching the packaging. So, and those are just a few samples. So just to summarize it, as far as packaging, points of purchase, points of sale, and signages are concerned, both the power of sight and touch, they're all meant to gain our attention. 80% buy rate if a consumer is drawn to a display or package and actually picks it up. So the sight takes care of getting the attention and keeping the attention. The moment the consumer picks up the product, that's it. The persuasion increases much more. For direct marketing, cards and other types of graphic communications, the impact is just as strong. We're looking at, if you look here, these are novelty cards, and it can very well be gift cards. And the idea there is that if it looks and feels different, it creates more impact. And according to the study of the same group as FSEA, up to 400% increase in response rate. Your flyers, your direct mailers, your brochures, all of them can be benefited by these types of embellishments. So And I think this is my second to the last slide. I mentioned to you about a consumer seeing a product and then touching the product because that is a key. But is that something that we are just guessing that consumers are doing? Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to show you what consumers think. This is how consumers actually shop. This is a study made by California Polytechnic State University. The packaging influences my purchase. You know, imagery, shape, color, texture. 59% of the correspondents agree. I often pick up and handle the package before purchase. An astounding 80% of the respondents agree. To be honest with you, I'm part of this group. I always like to handle and touch and feel the product before I even buy. So I'm guilty as charged. And then finally, I often assume that fashionably decorative, expensive packaging is an indication of quality and expect to pay more for the product. Okay, well, it's still significant. It's almost one half. One half of the respondents say that they will assume that the fashionably decorative, expensive packaging is an indication of quality and expect to pay more products. Private label virgin coconut oil? Unknown new tea brand who wants to make its mark in the market? Some new rubber products that want to be introduced and adopted in the local and international products? All of these apply. Um, yeah. One last thing about this topic, but perhaps I should give the floor first to Mr. Hanzala.
Thank you, Mike. Very interesting. I'm getting lost with your explanation. It's amazing. In fact, out of speech actually. So just to give a summary of the slides that you have done. අපි කතා කරා මේ touch of touch power of touch එකයි the power of visibility එකයි ඒකේ මොකද්ද කස්ටමර්ට ගෙන්වන්නේ කියලා. එතකොට අපේ බ්‍රෑන්ඩ් එකකට අපේ print එකකට ධනාත්මක භාවය ගෙන්වනවා. එතකොට කස්ටමර්ට මේක මිලදී ගන්න පොළඹවනවා කියන එක. එතකොට තව එකක් තමයි කස්ටමර් බලපෑම් කරනවා. 150ක් විතර කස්ටමර්ස්ලා කියලා තිබ්බා පැකේජින් එක බලපෑම් කරනවා කස්ටමර්ගේ මේ මිලදී ගැනීමේ මේ අරමුණ කියලා. එතකොට තව එකක් අපි කතා කරා සුපෝපභෝගී භාණ්ඩ බලපුවාම මිල අධික වුණත් පැකේජින් එක හින්දා අපිට කස්ටමර්ස්ලාට මේක පොළඹවනවායි කියලා කියන එක අපි කතා කරා. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Hanzala. So that one last thing that I want to talk about, but thank you, Hanzala, for concluding some of the stuff that I talked about for the power of sight and touch. So this one last thing that I want to talk about is well, it's more of a question to everyone. Do you want to know how to make this? This is blue foil. This is spot UV. Allow me to show you the rest of this invite. And this is an invite for social media that they gave away face to face and sent through direct mail. Blue foil, gold foil, and we're trying to simulate the sea. Would you want to know how to make this? I'd love to give you an idea during today's part 2. And with that, I give the floor first to Mr. Amita. Thank you for this allowing me to present part 1.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much for your presentation so far. Very detailed and very interactive session. Interesting, quite interesting. So now may I, Leonard, can you play the video of the sponsors at this moment, Leonard?
Get a break. I don't want to speak about the MGI because it can do a lot of things, you know. My name is Paco Salcedo. I am a MGI press operator at Thnx. My supervisor, he said that I was a perfect fit to run the MGI. And I said to myself, you know, some people can run the MGI, I can do it also. Lux Effects is an embellishment process to your printed piece, creating a 3D effect. The purpose of this is to bring your printed piece to life. You see it, you can feel it, and this is what the Lux Effects is. Give the extra kick. A lot of the customers think that putting too much on a printed piece is gonna look good, and it's the opposite. Put little details in a printed piece, in key parts of the printed sheet. It's gonna make it look great. I don't know, I get so passionate speaking about the MGI, and because it does wonders. It does wonders. I mean, this is what Lux Effects is, you know, embellish your printed piece. We have been getting compliments of our customers, and this is what keeps us moving, you know, to do things better every day. Oh, this is nice. This is a basketball. I mean, it looks like a real basketball. You see the texture. I mean, this is nice. People love this. Our masterpiece. This piece basically shows what we can do. Silver foil, red foil, spot UV on this image. This is nice. I love this piece. It's a piece of art. I want to be in this industry for the rest of my life because this is what I like. To me, coming to work every day, it fulfills me. Doing the Lux Effects, it brings me happiness because this is something unique. We take care of every little detail that is needed to get it to the customer like perfect.
Thank you, Leonard. And now, Mike, it's over to you again for your presentation.
Okay, thank you. I never met Team Concept Printing, but I've seen a lot of their work, and they're very highly creative and very passionate people. And I've seen that. You can see we almost have the same passion, and I've seen that with other companies operating the MGI as well. But anyway, going back to my presentation, now let's move to the second part, and let me share my screen again. Okay, so now you see, if the power of the foil, the power of sight and touch, foiling and texture is really that strong, then how come it is not something that everyone is doing you know, here in our region, actually in other parts of the world? This is actually has become mainstream and is even expected. And the reason for that is because of certain prohibitive nuances from the existing technology. And therefore, the digital embellishment is actually the one that has solved, so to speak, or has gone around those prohibitive nuances of traditional embellishment. That's why it's mainstream in Europe. And when I say prohibitive nuances, what do I mean? Traditional embellishment are very expensive short run. Personalization is very much of a challenge. And nowadays, with the brands fiercely competing with each other, we need to change our design very, very quickly. When I say we, I mean we with the brands need to be able to change designs of their campaigns or their production very, very quickly to remain competitive against competitors. And the way to be able to do that, the easiest way is through digital embellishment means. Okay, so before I discuss a little bit more about what kind of benefit digital embellishment can give you, allow me to show you first a small sampling of what has been done around the world as far as digital embellishment is concerned. Okay, I think I can stop here, and let me continue. So simply put, what is digital embellishment? Well, digital embellishment is naturally embellishment. It's a post-press process. You need to print first, and then you apply spot, specialty coating, embossing, foil stamping. In some machines, die cutting too. And it's done through a completely digital method. That is digital embellishment. So die cutting notwithstanding, although we do have a line of digital embellishment machine that also has an inline die cutter, and that's for our web digital embellishment. Let me categorically state that most digital embellishment machines can do one of three things: digital flat spot UV, digital tactile effect, and most importantly, digital foil effect. And let me, through the next few slides, let me take you through how digital embellishment can make these types of effects easier for you. Okay, so first, let's talk about flat spot UV. And this is the most common spot UV that is happening around the world. Even for digital embellishment, there is still a huge volume that is done on flat spot UV, just like that in the background. But already, right off the bat, there's already an advantage when using digital embellishment, because when using digital embellishment, our gloss units are actually higher. The gloss unit of the coating itself. So allow me to explain what the gloss unit means. Basically, a gloss unit is a measurement used to determine the reflectiveness of a surface. It's 0 to 100. 100 is mirror. And then offset and flexo, depending on your substrate surface, can be 60 to 70. If you have a smoother surface, so it's an offset or flexo print, with a UV coating or even a good lamy, it could be 80 to 90. But the digital spot UV coating is at 99 gloss units, one step lower than a mirror. So right off the bat, by just using digital embellishment, when it comes to attention grabbing, digital embellishment process will already have an advantage. Okay, so of course, traditionally, traditional embellishment is being done on offset and silkscreen. And you know this already. And most likely, definitely the most common embellishment is in silkscreen. So, but for offset and silkscreen, there are of course definitely challenges when it comes to making plates and screens. It's both costly and time consuming. When it comes to short run, it becomes more expensive, and it's not possible to do VDP on the same run. So your barcodes, your QR codes, your personalization, your numerization, they all have to be done in another run if it can be done at all. And then most importantly, when it comes to these machines, we definitely need operators that are highly skilled. Okay, so everyone knows this already, but allow me to show you how a silk screen is made. I've done this myself back in the day, and I still love doing it. But I'm not so good at it anymore. But just to stress my point, what you're gonna see is something that we will be relieving if we are using digital embellishment.
If you've seen our spot UV finish, you know it's an eye-catching effect that juxtaposes a glossy spot UV coating with a satiny soft touch background. It looks great on everything from business cards to folders, but have you ever wondered how we do it? The UV process is basically a form of screen printing, like on t-shirts. It starts with coating a very fine mesh screen with a light-sensitive material. Once this dries, a piece of photographic film is taped to the screen. The film is imaged where the UV coating will be applied to the sheet. The screen and the film are put into a vacuum frame, and the whole thing is exposed to ultraviolet light for about 2 minutes. This cures the coating. Anywhere there is image on the film, the coating does not cure. The screen is then washed off. The parts of the coating that did not cure wash away. This will allow the liquid gloss UV coating to contact the sheet in these areas. The screen is then mounted on a Sakurai screen printing machine, and the liquid gloss UV coating is poured onto the screen. A squeegee mechanism squeezes the liquid through the screen and onto each sheet of paper as it passes through. The sheets then proceed on a conveyor belt.
Okay, I think we can stop there. So as you can see, it takes a lot of effort and time to create a screen, and what you're actually seeing here is really a very shortened version, so that it would look nice in videos. And I know that for a fact because I've overseen similar video productions before of our process. But basically, when it comes to our because we were ISO 9000 certified, and we would actually say the fastest, we normally would say, give us 1 week to send you back the screens if you ask us to make the screen. And then if you want us rush, please pay us extra. We will send it back to you 3 days after. And to be honest, it usually takes us 2 days if we don't make the frame. If we have to make the frame, then it's gonna take longer. And that is what you will not experience anymore once you start getting into digital embellishment. So my esteemed colleague Hanzala, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, Mike, thank you. So just a small summary. Why nobody is doing this කියලා අපි අහුවා. මේ embellishment මෙච්චර important අපි ඔක්කොම ඇයි මේක කරන්නේ නැත්තේ? අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නම් ඇයි අපි මේක කරන්නේ නැත්තේ කියන එක. එතකොට සමහර වෙලාවට ගොඩාක් අපිට අවශ්‍යතාවන් එනවා කුඩා පරිමාණයේ මුද්‍රණ අවශ්‍යතාවයන්. එතකොට personalization පුද්ගලිකරණය කිරීමට. එතකොට විචලන දත්ත variable data කරන්න අවස්ථාවන් එනවා. එතකොට අපි කතා කරා digital සැරසිලි යන්නේ කුමක්ද කියලා. එතකොට digital embellishment කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා කියන එක. එතකොට මේකේ අපි ඔක්කොමලම දන්න දෙයක් තමයි ඒ කිව්වේ ස්පොට් වානි සමහර ස්ථානවල විතරක් ස්පෙෂල් විශේෂ ආලේපනයන් කිරීම, embellishment කිරීම, foil, එතකොට die cut, එතකොට digital embellishment කියලා කියන්නේ මේ හැම එකක්ම සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම digital ක්‍රමයෙන් සූදානම් කර ගැනීම තමයි digital embellishment කියලා කියන්නේ. එතකොට ඒක කතා කරා gloss ඒකකයක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා, gloss unit එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා. එතකොට එතන අපි බැලුවා රිසර්ච් එකකට 100%ක් පරාවර්තන මැනීමේ මෙෂර්මන්ට් කරන ඒකකයක් බලපුවාම offset එකේදී ප්‍රමාණයෙන් අපි බැලුවා නම් offset එකේදී gloss unit GU approximately 60ක් 70ක් අතර තුර. එතකොට මේක aqueous coating හරහා ඒ විදිහටම offset එකේ හෝ flexo එකේදී UV coating හරහා 80යි 90යි අතරත. එතකොට අපි රාමුවක් කණ්ණාඩියක් මිරර් එකක් බැලුවා නම් reflection ඒ කිව්වේ පරාවර්තනය වීමේ ධාරිතාවය 100%ක්ම මිරර් එක තියෙනවා. එතකොට අර gloss level එක 100%ක් මිරර් එකේ තියෙනවා. එතකොට digital spot UV වල 99ක් මේකේ තියෙනවා. එතකොට අපි බැලුවා මේක දැනට කරන විධාන කොහොමද කියලා. එතකොට spot UV දැනට කරන්න අපි offset press එක හෝ screen press එක. එතකොට මෙතන අපි බැලුවා මේකේ මේ දැනට කොහොමද කරන්න කියලා spot UV. ඒකට අමතරව Mr. Mike තව ඉස්සරහට අපිට ගෙනියයි. Thank you, Mike. You can continue.
Thank you, Anjala. Okay, so that's about spot UV. But remember, the strongest point of embellishment, not just in packaging, but also when it comes to general marketing communication, is tactile effect. To be able to do tactile effect using conventional means, and I know you all of you know this already, but allow me to explain to stress my point. From what I know, there are two ways to achieve tactile effect using traditional analog technologies. Number one is pretty straightforward. We use silk screen printing, because with silk screen printing, it can actually be quite thick. I've seen we actually have special emulsions that would make our stencils pretty thick, and then we also have emulsifiers that would keep our ink higher when we draw from the screen. But in general, at an average, it's gonna be only 11% as far as texture is concerned, than compared to what is possible with digital. So you can do much more with digital embellishment as far as texture is concerned. Now, the other way that actually can offer more texture is a two-pass process. And this is the one that can be very good if done very well. So the first pass is always a silk screen, which is flat. But what has to be done next after doing the flat silk screen is that you need to do a second pass wherein you need embossing die. And you need an embossing die and a counter to actually emboss that area under and around the flat spot UV. Okay? So, and it can be very good because, as you know, embossing die can make very high texture. But you will always be, your question when doing this will always be two things. Number one, it's a two-pass process. Will I be able to have consistent registration between my first pass and my second pass? And that will always be a concern. And number two, more importantly, I will have to be limited more. I need to rethink my design more because I will have to look at the proper surface, the proper substrate, and given the certain substrate, how high can I actually do the emboss? We've had an experience with a cigarette printer in Indonesia, and they couldn't emboss too much on their rotogravure print because they're using ivory paper. And whenever they try to emboss using ivory paper, the paper cracks and the white comes out. And so in the end, they had to throw away the idea of applying emboss on their premium cigarette packaging. And well, they applied a little emboss, but they wanted it higher. So in digital printing, well, of course, we still have to look at substrates. We still have to look at the design, but I would like to think that the scope is broader than these types of process. And then with the technology of some of the digital embellishment machines like the AIS that you saw in the video, the two-pass process becomes very, very easy. So that's really all I have to explain about texture printing. Hansa, care to add anything?
Thank you, Mike. So, අපි මෙතන කතා කරා ස්පර්ශ කිරීමේ බලය tactile effect කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා. එතකොට දැන්ට කරන්නේ කොහොමද seal screen එකේ මම හිතන විදිහට මෙතන සහභාගී වෙලා ඉන්න ගොඩක් කට්ටිය ඔක්කොම ඒව ඕගලන්ට මේ process එක ගොඩක් දන්නවා. එතකොට මේකේ මම සාරාංශයක් ගත්තාම first step එක screen printing step එක flat 2D varnish එකක් කරන්න වෙනවා. second pass එක stamping කරන්න වෙනවා. මේක die cut එකක් කරාව නැත්නම් die cast එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට මේකට අමතරව the idea is to stamp. එතකොට stamp එක කරනකොට මේක flat එක 2D එක tactile effect එකක් ගෙන්නන්න තමයි මේ stamping එක කරන්නේ. එතකොට සමහර වෙලාවට මේ stamping එකේදී කරන්න පුළුවන් size එක. එතකොට ඒ ප්‍රමාණය ගොඩක් දුරට අමාරුයි මේ කරන ස්ටැම්පින් එක හරහා. එතකොට මේ foiling කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා දැන් අපි බලමු. Go ahead, Mike, please.
Thank you, Hanzala. Okay, so moving on, allow me to move on to foil stamping. So, and what you're seeing in the background, this is an actual output from our digital embellishment machine. So this is what we call digital foiling. So this one, of course, all of you are very familiar already, and I do not even need to show any video. So, but as you know, in general, most dyes are either magnesium, brass, or copper, and all of these are either very difficult to make if you are making your own. But if most likely you are ordering from another company, so they can actually be quite expensive, especially naturally for the bigger designs, because bigger designs will be exponential when it comes to cost. So this is an example of a magnesium dye. It's pretty intricate, but I'd like to point to you that if you notice, the depth, the height of the dye are all the same. So this magnesium dye, this is a sample of a copper dye. Copper dye is a little bit more faster to make than a magnesium dye, although magnesium dyes are cheaper. But if you notice, the height are also the same. The one that really can actually simulate different heights and therefore can easily do texture foiling is actually the brass dye. Because in the brass dye, it is now possible to make different depths. So when it comes to texture foiling, it's also possible in digital embellishment. That is one of the things that is easily done as well and done by a lot of our customers. They use foil to attract attention and at the same time use variable thickness of emboss to make the tactile effect. We compare it actually to the brass die. And unfortunately, the brass die is the most expensive. So you can imagine that when it comes to foiling, that is the major cost component that you can save from when it comes to digital foiling. So what about cold foil? Cold foil, the cost is coming from the cost of the cold foil is coming from, of course, again, we're looking at the size. Size would dictate your the amount of adhesive you will use. Depending on how you apply your adhesive, you have to pay for your plate, you have to pay for your screen. In my case, we use silk screen to actually do gold foiling. Okay, so the question now is, hot foil and cold foil, both of them are very popular now. Each of them have their own challenges and strengths. So for example, for cold foil, the shininess is not as bright as a hot foil. 95% is silver and it's usually overprinted. Dark colors are not recommended when we overprint. For hot foil, there is a challenge when it comes to registration. Dies are expensive, of course. And then, the more runs, the more steps, the more chances, the more possibility of a problem to occur. So a lot of this I know that you already know. But I do want to stress a point. And my point is, as far as digital foiling is concerned, which one is really which? Is it cold foil or is it hot foil? Well, the answer is for some of the brands of digital embellishment, some of them are, cold foiling. But for us, it's actually a mix between cold and hot. We use hot foil. We use foil for hot stamping. So we are actually our own thing. So Hansala, before I continue, is there anything would like to add, or shall I continue with the
I think you
presentation?
can, but let me just give a small summary. I think most of the gentlemen who are here are already aware of the process itself. So
Yeah.
as a summary, බලපුවම අපි මෙතන කතා කරා පසුබිමේ නිර්මාණයක් තිබ්බා. මම හිතන්නේ බෑග්ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් එකේ නිර්මාණයක් තිබ්බා. ඒක කොහොමද කරේ කියලා. එතකොට normally අපි දැනට කරන්නේ magnesium dye එකක් හෝ copper dye එකක් හෝ මාර්ගෙන් කරන්නේ. එතකොට මෙතන තව එකක් තියෙනවා විවිධ ඝනකම් කරන්නේ ඝනකම් ඇතුළත කොහොමද කරන්නේ කියන මේ embellishment එක. එතකොට මේ tactile effect කියලා කියන්නේ. එතකොට ස්පර්ශ කිරීමේ මේ effect එක කොහොමද මේ කරන්නේ කියලා කියන එක. එතකොට hot foil සහ cold foil මොනවාද කියලා අපි වෙල මම මෙතන ඉන්න ඔබතුමාලා ගොඩක් දන්නවා කොහොමද මේ process එක කියලා. but digital කියන්නේ hot the foil cold. එතකොට Mr. Mike කිව්වා hot උත් නෙවෙයි cold උත් නෙවෙයි මේක අපිටම digital වලටම විශේෂ වූ විදිහක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට මේ process එක තමයි දැන් එතුමා අපිට කියන්නේ. Please, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hanzala, for that. Yes, we are our own thing because we use hot foil, but we have the flexibility of creating our own designs easily because we don't need dyes. And that is really our digital process. So we actually use inkjet to create the textures, to create the shapes, to create the text that can be used for spot UV and foiling. And then we use state-of-the-art technology using artificial intelligence to make sure that our registration is consistent and precise. And we call it the AIS. We can make all kinds of changes to the foil or the varnish files without having to call our die maker, or without even having to go back to pre-press, because in the machine, we can actually make very small changes that allow us to quickly make changes with our design as per what our customer wants. We use LED to create to pin cure, and that allows us to actually make very nice textures and very high micron spot UV. If we need to apply spot UV and foil on films, we have the ability to increase the dyne level using an inline corona, especially for our bigger machines. And finally, I think because of the way we do things, which is fully digital, the varnish is actually, the surface of the varnish is actually fully cured when the foil is applied. You still need to stack it overnight, just like other embellishment. However, the surface is actually very dry to the touch already. You just need to let the chemical reaction of the varnish complete overnight. So that is our digital process. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to actually show you that digital process, to put into perspective how it's actually done. And I know that we don't have a lot of time, so allow me to quickly show you how we do it. So first, let me show you digital embossed foiling. And as far as digital embellishment is concerned, especially for us, foiling is always the first run. So in a design with spot UV and foil, let me show you how we do the foiling. So those are the pre-printed sheets, and this is actually our small machine. I just need to get a file. I don't need to do anything else. I need to call up the file as if I am doing digital printing of full color. But I have two files. I have a file for foiling and I have a file for spot UV. So let's open the file for foiling. From here, I select the paper, check the varnish thickness. So let's select the paper. And then I want to foil, so I turn on my iFoil. So let's fast forward a little bit. And then here, I actually set how high I want my emboss to be. I just use a slider and I will be able to dictate the height of my emboss. Okay, and then from here, I just confirmed the rest of the settings. So I'll just fast forward to save time. And then I'll be sending 5 sheets for foil stamping. And then let me start it. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, this is the first print of the day. And because it's the first print of the day, the print heads are still parked, and it takes about 1 minute and 40 seconds for the machine to start to be ready to print. So we just have to wait 1 minute and 40 seconds from the start of the day. So I will fast forward now that 1 minute and 40 seconds. to show the printing. And this is the start of the feeding. I'm sending 5 sheets for printing. So this is the AIS assessing my printout. By the time the sheets reach this end, spot UV is done. And now this is the foil stamping. First sheet, second sheet, third sheet, fourth sheet, fifth sheet. So ladies and gentlemen, in a matter of a couple of minutes, I have gone from completely stuck to setting up my print job and to finally doing the actual foiling. And this is the foiling design that I did. It is as long as my 320 by 460 millimeter paper. And my job is done. So that is for the foiling. So let me now show you the next step, because that design has a foil and spot UV design together. So the next run is a second pass. And I think a lot of you are concerned. It's a second pass. There might be a problem with registration. So allow me to show you how easy it is to run the second pass and to show you the print afterwards. So here's the foiled sheets. I'm gonna bring it back. And then let's start to print. So this time around, I open my spot UV design. So you need, as I mentioned, you need 2 files. Filing for the foiling and file for the spot UV. So let's open the spot UV. And then I'm just gonna check the settings, with which I'm gonna fast forward already. Suffice to say, the difference here is that my foiling unit is off. It's set to bypass. So that's why you see here, it's off. So let's run it. And then this is the second print for the day. I just have to wait for 30 seconds for the sheets to print again. So even if it's another job, I just load the new file, load my new sheets, and in 30 seconds, after confirming the print job, the jet varnish will start printing. And that's what's gonna happen now, as you see. So you can see I didn't fast forward anymore, and the machine will start printing already. So there's the one sheet that I sent, and as you can see, the AIS will actually align the spot UV again, and at this point, spot UV is done. And there is the spot UV design on the text, on the logo, on the square, and also on the main graphic of my box. It's actually a box design. So ladies and gentlemen, that is how we actually can make things faster and easier using digital embellishment. So with everything that I said, what is really our value proposition for you? Simply put, right now, for traditional embellishment, you are at a cost plus process, which means that this is your cost, and then your margin is this. And it's parallel with the cost all the way, more or less, For digital embellishment, you just have to figure out your crossover point. After figuring out your crossover point, everything here now becomes your margin. Is this feasible? Nowadays, more brands are creating more SKUs, more variants, and less production per variant. And that's what we're looking at here. The benefit of digital embellishment and the benefit to your profit based on the trends that are happening on the shift to digital printing. So, and that is only for the usual spot UV and foiling jobs. What about when we're talking about personalization, when we're talking about security, when we're talking about variable data enhancement, serialization? A lot of these, this now becomes your profit, because there's no other way to do it except digital. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the premium that you get from the type of designs and embellishments that you do, coupled with the savings that you get from the reduction in the process and the reduction in the tools needed, and also just from the intrinsic quality of the actual application, you will have more control over your profit by using digital embellishment. So in summary, what is the digital embellishment advantage? Short run, low waste, quick turnaround time, easy to use, variable data printing, eco-friendly, and of equal importance, will be able to support both your traditional and digital printing needs, and at the same time is able to complement your traditional embellishment equipment if you have one already. So that is actually in the summary of my presentation to you for digital embellishment. So Hanzala, is there something you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mike. I think most of the slides were very visual, so I think a lot of ladies and gentlemen, could have grabbed it easily. But I will just do a small summary. Of course, අපි කතා කරා digital embellishment එක කොහොමද කරන්න කියලා, නිර්මාණයක් කොහොමද කරන්න කියලා. එතකොට මේකේ මොකද්ද තියෙන වෙනස්කම්, කොහොමද registration අපිට 100% හරියට ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා අපි බැලුවා, කොච්චර ඉක්මනට මේක කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා බැලුවා. ඒකට අමතරව මේ digital ක්‍රමයෙන් අපි කස්ටමර්ට ලබා දෙන යෝජනා මොකද්ද, වටිනාකම මොකද්ද කියලා. එතකොට අපි බැලුවා අපි දැනට කරන ට්‍රැඩිෂනල් විදිහෙන් බලපුවාම කොච්චර ලාභයක් අපිට උපයා ගන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. ඒ විදිහෙන්ම අපිට ඩිජිටල් ක්‍රමයෙන් කොච්චර ලාභයක් අපිට උපයා ගන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා කියනවා. එතකොට මේකේ දැන් ඇඩ්වාන්ටේජස් අපි බලපුවාම ෂෝට් රන් පොඩි ප්‍රමාණයේ අපිට මුද්‍රණ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් ආපුවාම අපි කොහොමද මේක කරන්නේ, paper wastage අපි කොච්චරක් කොහොමද අඩු කරගන්නේ, කස්ටමර්ට කොච්චර ඉක්මනට අපිට මේක දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද, ෆොයිල් එකක් අපි කලින් කතා කරා ඩයි එකක් කපා ගන්නවා නම් කොච්චරක් කල් යනවද, සතියක් normally සති දෙකක් විතර වගේ යනවා ඉන්ටර්නැෂනල් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් හැටියට. එතකොට අපිට මේක ඩිජිටල් වලින් අපි දැක්කා දවසේ පළවෙනි මුද්‍රණය දාන්නම අපිට විනාඩියක් තමයි setup time එක යන්නේ. ඒකට එහාට දෙවෙනි එක දාන්න තප්පර 30ක් තමයි මැෂින් එකට රෙඩි වෙන්න යන කාල ප්‍රමාණය. ඒකින් එහාට කස්ටමර්ට ඉක්මනටම දෙන්න පුළුවන් අපේ මුද්‍රණය. එතකොට කොච්චර ලේසිද පාවිච්චි කරන්න, VDP කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකට අමතරව පරිසර හිතකාමී print එකක් අපිට දෙන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට මේ වගේ අපිට කම්ප්ලිමන්ට් කරන්න පුළුවන් ට්‍රැඩිෂනල් එකේ අපිට දැනට තියෙන අපේ ඔබතුමන්ලාගේ ඔෆ්සෙට් ප්‍රෙස් එකේ හෝ දැනට කරන විදිහට අනුව මේකට අපිට දෙකම එකට එකතු කරලා අපිට මේක කම්ප්ලිමන්ට් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක අපි කතා කරා. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Hanzala. And I think with that, I would like, I can very well say that I've completed my presentation, and it's actually almost we're almost done with the time allocation. So yeah, so thank you, Mr. Amita. I can return, give you back the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike, for your excellent presentation. I hope it was very informative, and it was very interesting, also attractive session. And even thank you very much for Hansala giving the summary on the brief. Okay, summary and on the total presentation what you did. So I'm sure that our Sri Lankan printers would have got the idea what is print embellishment and how it really add value to their printing business, and what differentiation, what real value addition that which can bring into the business. So thank you so much for your expertise, your advices, your knowledge sharing with us in order to uplift the Sri Lankan printing industry. So now may I now invite our Association of Print, on behalf of the Sri Lanka Association of Printers, Mr. Ketis, to make a word of thanks.
Thank you, Amita.
Ketis, I think you're on mute, Ketis. Ketis, we can't hear you.
Now it's okay.
Yeah, if you can keep your voice a little bit loud.
Yeah. Now it's okay, Amita.
Yeah. Now fully okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thank you, Amita. Good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of Sri Lanka Association of Printers, I take pleasure in delivering the vote of thanks. We hope the webinar would have given all the participants a sound clarification on print established these embellishments. First and foremost, we would like to show gratitude to Mr. Michael B. Ibrahim, the IP Product Marketing Manager from the regional headquarters of Konica Minolta. The knowledge sharing session was pretty precise and clear from the point of view of technical aspect of embellishments, as well as on the marketing advantages. Also, the profit proposition of digital embellishments was discussed in detail. Thank you for that on behalf of the listeners as well as the association. Second, our appreciations and thanks goes to our sponsor. Without the sponsor, we can't go ahead with any webinars, and especially this Konica Minolta Business Solutions. And further, we thank our Sinhala translator, Mr. Hansala Samath, for doing a wonderful job. And special thanks goes to Sri Lanka Association of Printers President, Mr. Peter Decker, and the project chairman, Mr. Amita Bandara, with his team. Additionally, we thank all the EXCO members of SLAP and the staff of Sri Lanka Association of Printers. Finally, our thanks are directed to all our members and participants of this webinar. So stay tuned to our WhatsApp page for the next webinar and knowledge sharing sessions. And further, our breakfast with CEO is scheduled late this month on a financial topic. Please get in touch with the office for more details. Thank you, and have a nice weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ketis. Due to the time, Peter, 1 second. Yeah, due to the time limitation, I wanted to go ahead with the vote of thanks first. So, since we have a little time left behind, So I would like to invite all the participants, if they have any question or something to ask from Mike, or even in a singular version from Hansala, so which he will translate into the English. And please welcome all the participants if you have any question to raise to Mike Ibrahim.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Michael. I'm Chamila from Atlas. I just need to clarify two things actually. One is, what do you define by this short run in this digital format? I mean, I know that in the certain level, you get the economy of scale advantage, and after that, you get the fixed cost for a certain quantity. So, in the short run, how do you define that? I,
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Actually, and that is a very important question and age-old question as well. So basically, the the crossover point is a movable target. It depends on a lot of factors, of course. But basically, it is something that, how should I say, dip, it's something that also changes from company to company. Hence, when we talk about crossover point, and we actually usually engage the company in detail and talk about specific jobs, and then we get a more clearer picture of where the crossover point is. Case in point, there is a packaging printer in Malaysia with whom we've been discussing with, and their customers actually reach as far as Germany, and we do spot UV and foiling also for their boxes. So their boxes range from cosmetic boxes all the way to the bigger boxes. So when we were discussing about cosmetics, in the end, our crossover point goes to about 3,000. With that particular product, it ended up 3,000 sheets. And then with another packaging company in Vietnam, wherein they do small item cosmetic packaging, their crossover point has become 1,500 to 2,000 sheets. So we can very well say that more or less that would be the crossover point that we're looking at when it comes to digital embellishment. But again, it is a guide, and we have to get into the details of the costing to be able to come up with a more precise crossover point. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Thank you. Yeah, because now the thing is, we always having this debate on mass customization and the differentiation. So we were always talking about this, the right quantity to mass customization and differentiation, and what is the right technology that we need to use in terms of the printing aspect. I got a sort of an idea on the subject. Okay, thanks, Michael.
In fact, to add to
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chamila's question and to add to what Mike said, in fact, we have some customers that we've seen here in Sri Lanka also. The point of shifting to digital from offset can also go up to even 80,000. It all depends on, as Mike said, the cost and also the requirement of the customer as to how quick he wants it. The quick turnaround time, sometimes customers can't wait for weeks for the die to come in and for the printer jobs to come out from the printer. So it also depends, the quick short run also depends on the cost and how quickly the customer actually wants it. So that many different points like what Mike added can be actually the differentiator from traditional to digital requirement, how you differentiate it and how you actually require and these two types of technology.
Thank you, Harsala. Thank you very much.
Any more question to Mr. Mike from the participant?
සිංහලෙන් අහන්න ඕන නම් අහන්න අපිට ට්‍රාන්ස්ලේට් කරලා අහන්න පුළුවන් මිස්ටර් මයික් ගෙන්. කවුරු හරි ඉන්නවනම්.
Hi, Mike. I'm Amila. So thank you very much for your detailed presentation. So we enjoyed it a lot. And sometimes we are facing some problem, mainly when we do some, digital foiling on a packaging cartons, mainly across the grain, not the grain, across the creasing. Sometimes there is a tendency to peel it off. So is it an inherent issue, or is there any special, some solution for that?
Okay. Oh, thank you very much for that very important question. And I have to say though, as a rule of thumb, when it comes to digital embellishment, especially if we are looking at high micron, we usually advise not to apply foiling and embellishment on the crease. As a rule of thumb, as much as possible, we try to avoid it. Okay. However, having said that, there are cases wherein you can actually pull it off, but there are several factors. So first, let me talk about the substrate. If you are talking about applying digital embellishment directly on a substrate without any coating, without any protection, then for sure, the moment the surface of your substrate breaks, then your embellishment will break. Be it traditional or be it digital, it will happen. So first, we need to take care of making sure that we the surface where the embellishment is will not be breaking. So that is usually either lamy or a good coating. So now let's talk about lamy, because that's the one that is most commonly used when we actually want to protect the sheet. So when it comes to lamy, so long as and I'm talking about digital embellishment here, so long as the varnish, has a very good adhesion onto your lamy, then your micron is not very high on the part where you will do your creasing, then there is a high chance that you can actually retain and not peel. But just watch out, because for lamy, once your surface energy drops, then definitely the varnish on top of the lamy will definitely peel. And you don't even need to bend that too much, it will peel in the end. So you take care of your surface, make sure it doesn't break. You make sure that your micron on the fold is not too high. And then you actually make sure that your surface energy is good. And then there is a big chance of success. But for us, our advice would always be, before you go production, please test. Develop the product, test, make sure it works, and then if it works, you go to production. So the testing is very important because there's so many factors. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Thank you, Mike. It's very detailed. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for a very valuable presentation. And I'm sure everybody would have understood all the aspects in digital printing. And thank you, Amit, for organizing this webinar, and for JDC sponsoring this webinar. And thank you, Hansela, too, for the translation done in Singular. And having said that, please look out for more webinars coming up in the next 2-3 weeks. And once again, thanks everybody who came forward to listen to this presentation by Michael. By the way, we are having the Printers Association having a printers get together on 3rd of December. So please watch out for more details. I would like to see everybody attending this event. Thank you and have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Decker.
Thank you.
Thank you.